Good morning. My name is Cecilie Jonassen. I'm the CEO of VOW Green Metals. Welcome to our market update and the financial reporting of the second half year of 2022. So just to recap who we are. We will recycle biomass waste streams into biocarbon, a valuable material that is used into the metal industry. In addition to that, we are also going to produce pyrolysis gas, which is a CO2 neutral gas that can replace fossil energy sources. We are a build own operate company, so we're going to build pyrolysis plants to offer it to the metallurgical industry. We have several of people in our organization with extensive process competence. But in addition to that, we also have a cooperation with a technology company, VOW, with more than 250 resources backing us up on this journey. We have the ownership of the factory model, which is allowing a rapid build-out. And we're currently building our first plant at Follum with more than 10,000 tons of capacity. And I will come back to that in a minute, but this is really exciting. And I'm really looking forward to share more about the highlights today. So let's go to the highlights. This morning, we announced that we're actually going to start to produce biocarbon for the metallurgical industry this year. We have been encouraged by the market and from our customers to do this as early as possible. And we see that we have several studies, both with existing partners, but also new customers that is requiring us to produce more than lab scale. And we're actually skipping pilot. We are building a total production line with a huge capacity. And this is because we see there is a strong increase in demand. Last time I announced that we are actually working with the potential of 470,000 tons of biocarbon. This has increased to 600,000 tons. An important step on that journey is that the Follum plant is progressing. I'll come back to that in a couple of slides. And we also have studies ongoing at Follum to expand it to 20,000 tons. And this is, of course, important because to get economics of scale, but also look into all of the different kind of technologies that we can use. And, of course, on this journey, we see that there are a huge potential for investors and funds to take part in a renewable industry. So building up that, we are discussing with several partners to see the rollout of an industry in Europe and also globally. So a short update on the financials. We had a loss of 10.7 million NOK, mostly that being employee expenses, but also some operating expenses. And we have a total of non-current assets of 87 million NOK. That is mostly the process equipment for the Follum plant. And total current assets is 44 million NOK, of which 43 million NOK is in cash. But very exciting today is to announce the early production from mid-23. So you can look at the picture at the right-hand side, and you will see we're actually building the first line. It's the same line that we will have at the Follum 10,000 plant. And this will give us extensive experience when we're starting off that plant. And together with VOW, because VOW has been already started building that, you can see it in the small picture. It's actually, as we speak, they're installing the equipment. And we expect that we will produce relevant material from this in third quarter 2023. And when we were thinking about this, it's actually not a small production line. 2,500 tons of biocarbon capacity annually is one of the biggest plants in Europe today. This will, of course, accelerate the qualification of biocarbon for our customers. I will come back to how we do that, but it also allow us to build up faster and have a lot of experience when we start up the Follum plant. So to give a status on Follum and the first 10,000 tons. The capacity of 10,000 tons, we're building it at Follum. A bit, we changed the location at the Follum site, but now the framework approval is given, work permits is given, and the first shipment actually has arrived now in January 2023. So you can see at the picture on the right-hand side, you have the pyrolysis reactor prior to shipment. And also at the drawing there, you can see how the factory will look like. So the activities going forward on this is expecting execution phase during first half this year, and that we will be operating in the middle of 2024. But of course, as announced, and we did give in our last market update, is an expansion to 20,000 tons. And this is of course because the market wants biocarbon, but we also saw the potential at the new site to do this, and that it would be an advantage to start off as early as possible with expansion. But as we all know in Norway, electricity from the grid is something that is a scarce resource. But with the technology from VOW ASA, and you can see it in a small picture here at the right side, the reactor that is now in Fredrikstad, being built in Fredrikstad, that actually can make it's partly off-grid, not completely off-grid, but partly off-grid, which means that we can install this and expand capacity without taking too much of the grid capacity in the area. But in this sense, it is also good for us to see that other players at the industrial park is building up something that our energy surplus can go into their production and making this a good example of a circular economy on an industrial park, and how this ecosystem of energy means that we can valorize biomass both for packaging, for biocarbon, but also taking care of that excess energy in the best possible way. But we're not stopping at 20,000 tons in Norway. 600 tons of biocarbon potential is in the studies that we're doing. So it's several different verticals. So you have industrial parks, actually both greenfield but also brownfield industrial parks, which see that pyrolysis technology is such a huge part of the ecosystem and the possibility to valorize waste streams. And so two of the concepts that we're working on is industrial parks, where pyrolysis is an essential part of the setup, both for energy but also for waste handling. In addition to that, you have sawmills that can valorize their byproducts. So they don't need to ship them off-site, so we will lower the transport linked to those waste streams. And of course, most of those companies that we're working with, they're interested in the excess energy, because we can produce valuable steam or valuable pyrolysis gas that can replace LNG, it can replace electricity, it can replace other energy sources or other huge investments. In the Nordics, we have an advantage that we have a lot of metallurgical industry, so that in different verticals. So you have silicium, ferrosilicium, you have steel, and so on. And we are in contact with several of these companies that now see that they need our biocarbon. And they are actually looking at building factories with us on their sites or have an offtake of the biocarbon that we are producing at Follum and other places. Going into Central Europe, a lot of paper and packaging companies actually use a lot of fossil energy to produce steam, which is the easiest thing that we can make. From pyrolysis gas, producing steam is something that it's a very efficient use of the excess energy we have. But I guess that you see how excited I am in this picture, and also the CTO in the company, Trond Forseth. We're actually holding the product in our hands. I said that, of course, but this is a lab scale volume, of course, but we have very promising results from these pellets. And they actually have results that are very promising to use in the silicon and ferrosilicon industry. But we also see that we are developing products for the alternative verticals like ferrochrome and ferromangan, and also into production of iron. Compared to charcoal, and this is really important because this is material loss reducing. The mechanical durability of the product means that it won't make so much fines. It's not making that much dust when you transport it, and it's not a loss at the customer sites. And starting off that production later this year, we will be able to tune it even more, because when you have something that is a full-scale line, you can operate it in a different way, and we will be able to tune even more and develop more products. So just to say, so right now, performing lab tests, and with the new production line up and running this year, we can perform, I'd say it's pilot tests at customers, but also starting building up full-scale qualification volumes prior to starting up the Follum plant. So to round off, VOW Green Metals at Follum will actually build Europe's largest biocarbon production facility, starting up in middle of 2024. We will have an early production from third quarter 2023, a capacity of 2,500 tons. Studies ongoing for expansion of Follum plant 20,000 tons using the VOW technology, which is an off-grid solution, almost an off-grid solution. We are speeding up the biocarbon development, and the qualification is now ongoing with encouraging results. And of course, the expansion possibility in this. Business development ongoing with several projects in the pipeline, and feasibilities on the way, which we see is very promising to add to this. Thank you very much. So over to the Q&A.
Okay, some Q&A questions that have come in. We'll start off with some questions related to Follum. So what does it mean for VOW Green Metals to be able to produce biocarbon already this year?
I guess that when you look at Follum as a site, first of all, we will start hiring operators to be able to start up that line and drive the production on the 2,500 tons production line, because it is the same equipment that we're going to use at the bigger plant. So they will have a head start prior to starting up a huge plant, which we expect to have improved kind of startup line, especially when it comes to the technology challenges that you experience when you're starting up a complete plant. But in addition to that, probably even more important is that we can start off the qualification of the product, which is a process you need to do anyway, prior to that big plant, which means that we are ahead of that process, and we don't need to kind of tweak on a bigger scale. We can tweak on a smaller scale, even though it's quite big still.
Okay, good. And can you give some further insight into biocarbon off-takers from the full 20,000 ton plant at Follum?
Of course, we have a cooperation agreement with Elkem. They are they're front runners when it comes to saying that, okay, we need to convert into biocarbon. So they are really important for us. But there are also other within that verticals, like all the companies actually within ferrosilicon silicon industries, that this is how they can decarbonize. But I'd say that also, maybe because in Sweden, steel industry, and of course worldwide and globally, steel industry it's such a huge thing. We actually do get more and more requests from the steel industry, and that is quite interesting, because that means that we get a part into this ecosystem, and ferrosilicon is something that you put into the steel production. So I mean, it's all kind of interlinked in a way, and it is also materials that we need in the green transition. So you need it for solar panels, you need it for sustainable buildings, and so it's really something that we see that there are different verticals and different customers.
Can you elaborate somewhat on the progress with regards to Elkem's product, biocarbon?
So the Elkem product, so now we have some promising results when it comes to the mechanical durability, and of course self-heating is really important, and reactivity of the product, so that we see that it fits into the requirements of a reduction agent that you use in such a process. So what we're doing now is preparing lab scale volume to be tested, so that we will get into that step, qualify for the first one, then with the new capacity have what they call is the pilot, which is still quite a lot of volume, but still a smaller one. So we will then go into the pilot phase and qualify there, and then you'll have a full-scale test, which is a huge one. And you really need to do this thoroughly, because if you do the last one wrong, you kind of, or if you're not preparing it well enough, you can mess up big time. But the thing, I mean, the industry is used to this. This is the way you do it for all kind of new products, not just new products, but also existing charcoal production. You need to qualify.
And how much valuable, say, energy will you get from a 10,000 ton plant? How much, for example, steam will you produce, which can be relevant in the context of European customers, industrial customers?
I'd say at Follum, I'd rather talk about the 20,000 case and ecosystem with Billerud and Vardar with the heating, with the community heating. We will probably produce something in between 10 to 50 megawatts of steam, and we will both use it for ourselves, because we will dry our product, so it will be a very energy efficient setup. Additional to that, we will also take that energy and the excess energy, and Billerud doesn't need to, in the same way, buy external fuel to dry their product. And the really good thing about this, after both of us and Biller has been using this steam, then you will have a condensate, which is kind of, a lot of people will say that it's a low quality product, or it's low energy. So it is something that in the past doesn't have that value. But then VOW will use this kind of condensate, and they will use it and back into the system and the heating houses and such. And then they don't need external heating, so they'll kind of just be based on the excess energy from our production, or I say waste energy almost. I mean, it's not waste, but still.
Okay, moving along to the expansion plans. So you say you have a potential pipeline of 600,000 tons of biocarbon. How far are the partners or companies from making an investment decision on this pipeline?
I mean, some companies have already decided that biocarbon is an important strategy for them. So they are really, they know about pyrolysis, they know the technology, they understand the symbiosis you have when they will use the energy and such. So that we expect quite a speedy way forward. And I think that also important is that a lot of the companies where we're looking at, we know that they have already kind of put up space for something like this. So at the end of this year, we hope that we can announce going into main studies, which is important. So we are currently in feasibility studies. I guess I probably skipped that a bit quick earlier today, but we started some feasibility studies. So it takes about a year to do the studies. So it's depending on if we have some minor things that we need to solve in the studies, of course. But if everything goes as planned, we will have several new main studies in execution phase in the near future.
So then I guess that the LOI you announced earlier this year is one of the projects that are currently in a feasibility study, or?
That has actually already been a feasibility study where we, together with VOW, we did this, and they are now in the plans to both execute something themselves, and we're also developing a product for them. So that could actually be some volume from Follum to produce for them on an early stage, but we also see them as an off-taker from other projects or other plants.
Okay, good. And then one of the last questions here are related to funding. How confident are you with current funding, given your expansion plans?
I mean, we need to, when we look into those 20,000 tons, of course, we're talking to banks, we're talking to other partners. I mean, there are interests in that and getting into that space. So, I mean, it is getting quite a mature product, which means that it is something that people can, it's getting materialized. So talking to banks, of course, and also investors and potential new partners. I'd say that partners within the energy sector is something that we see there's a huge interest for them.
Okay, good. That was all the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.